It all began like any ordinary day, but it quickly turned into a nightmare. Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, walked into the courthouse confident, sharp, and completely unaware of the humiliation that awaited her. The people, tasked with upholding justice, underestimated her, thinking she was just another Trump representative who could be easily subdued. They thought they could shave her head, mock her, and record a video to humiliate her. What they didn't realize was that they had picked the wrong person to mess with. She wasn't just the president's spokesperson. She was a fighter, capable of bringing them down legally and relentlessly. What followed was a storm of justice, with shocking truths revealed, unexpected trials, and a twist that left her enemies begging for mercy. Before we dive deeper, drop a comment letting us know where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of our latest stories. Caroline Leavitt entered the Philadelphia Federal Courthouse, her high heels clicking on the marble floors, echoing through the large space. She was there to testify in a lawsuit regarding President Trump's immigration executive order. Dressed in a deep pink blazer, she exuded the confidence of someone who was used to being in front of cameras and crowds. In her leather briefcase, she had prepared notes, ready to counter any question from lawyers or reporters. She wasn't just representing the Trump administration. She was the face of the conservative movement, a warrior as President Trump had once called her. Outside the courthouse, the atmosphere was electric. Reporters from CNN and Fox News jostled for space. Cameras pointed at a crowd of liberal activists holding anti-Trump signs and MAGA supporters in red hats. The political tension in the air was palpable, as if it were ready to explode at any moment. Leavitt moved through the crowd, unaffected by the stares or whispers. She was used to being the center of attention, whether it was from supporters or critics. However, today, she had no idea that she was about to walk into a carefully set trap. At the security checkpoint, the guard's indifferent gaze quickly shifted to one of suspicion when Leavitt presented her credentials. A voice crackled over the radio. "Special screening orders from Judge Langley." Leavitt's frown deepened. Edward Langley, a federal judge known for his liberal views, had been a subject of her criticism on Fox News due to his rulings against Trump's orders. She could already sense the hostility that was coming. "Is there a problem?" she asked, her voice calm but sharp. The security officer, a burly man named Robert Clean, crossed his arms and gave her a smug grin. "Just procedure, Miss Leavitt. Judge, Langley wants to ensure safety." Leavitt surveyed the area. No cameras, no witnesses. Just a few guards standing motionless, their eyes averted. A strange unease settled in, but she kept her posture firm. "I demand to see the order," she said, her voice unwavering. Clean shrugged and pointed down the hallway. "Follow me, or we'll detain you." Leavitt's mind raced as she gripped her briefcase, considering her options. She could refuse, make a scene, but that would derail the trial and give the liberal media a chance to attack her. So she nodded and followed Clean into a secluded screening room. The steel door closed behind her with a heavy hiss, and on the table a hair clipper sat silently, like a looming threat. Leavitt froze, her heart racing. What is this place? She thought to herself, sensing she had just walked into something much more dangerous than she could have imagined. She asked, her voice still calm but carrying a clear warning. Klein grinned and picked up the clipper. "Just a security check, Trump girl. Judge Langley wants to make sure you're not hiding anything in that hair." The steel door behind Caroline Leavitt slammed shut, the lock clicking into place like a final sentence. The cold, sealed room in the Philadelphia Federal Courthouse was dimly lit by flickering fluorescent lights that cast an eerie glow on the gray concrete walls. The thick scent of metal and disinfectant hung in the air, as if the room itself was holding a threat. Leavitt stood tall, clutching her briefcase. Her sharp eyes scanned the room, landing on Judge Edward Langley, who stood in the center, his black robe flowing as he held a gleaming hair clipper in his hand. Two security guards flanked the door, their gazes lowered like silent shadows. There were no minions here, only Langley, who wore a mocking smile and eyes filled with the malice of a predator about to strike. Levitt felt her pulse quicken, but maintained her icy composure, showing no sign of faltering. "What is this game, Judge Langley?" she asked, her voice as sharp as when she sparred on Fox News. "I demand my lawyer right now. You have no right to detain me in this room." Langley flicked on the clipper, its low buzz filling the room like an angry swarm of bees. He stepped closer, his eyes gleaming with the arrogance of a judge who had presided over 500 cases in 15 years, with 80% of his rulings favoring liberal policies, according to 2024 Justice Department statistics. "Lawyer?" he sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. "You have no rights in my courtroom, Miss Levitt. That hair," he pointed at her neatly tied blonde locks, "could be hiding a recording device. My court has documented 3 audio leaks in the past year. I won't let a MAGA star like you undermine justice. Sit down, or I'll have you arrested for defying the court." Levitt gripped her briefcase, her nails digging into her palms as her eyes blazed with fury. "This is blatant abuse of power," she shot back, her voice ringing like a declaration of war. "I am the White House press secretary, representing a legitimate administration. You have no evidence, no warrant, and this action violates the Fourth Amendment's privacy protections. I demand you stop now." Her argument was razor-sharp, drawn from her years of experience countering liberal media. In 2024 alone, she had debunked over 200 accusations against Trump during press briefings. Levitt took a half-step toward Langley, her stance defiant as if she were at the White House podium. Langley didn't flinch. Instead, he raised the clipper, the fluorescent light reflecting off the blade, and smirked. "You think you're the voice of righteousness," he mocked, his tone dripping with condescension. "You'll have no voice left after today." He gestured for a guard to bring a steel chair, then turned back to Levitt with a menacing voice. "Sit down, or I'll have you detained right here for obstructing justice." Levitt scanned the room, memorizing every detail. The dim light, the metallic smell, the tense faces of the guards, and Langley's smug grin. She calculated quickly. Resisting could lead to detention, disrupting the trial, and giving liberal media like CNN the chance to smear her with headlines like, "Trump's press secretary causes chaos in court." But compliance didn't mean surrender. She would let Langley take his action, and he would pay dearly for it. "Fine," she said, her voice as cold as ice. She sat in the steel chair, her eyes never leaving Langley. "But I'll remember every word. You say every action you take. You just made the biggest mistake of your life." Langley laughed loudly, the sound echoing like a challenge. He stood close, so near that Levitt could feel his breath. "Mistake?" he mocked, his voice gleeful. "You're the mistake, Miss Levitt. You and your MAGA crowd think you can criticize me on Fox News and call me anti-Trump. Today, I'll teach you humility." With that, he switched on the clipper again, bringing the blade to her scalp, cold, vibrating, like a living sword. The first lock of her blonde hair fell to the floor, glinting under the harsh light, stolen fragments of radiance. Levitt sat still, her nails digging deeper into her palms, blood seeping out but her eyes burned, searing Langley's face into her memory. He worked slowly, deliberately, savoring each cut. "Look at this," he said, holding up a lock of hair, and turning to the guard with the name tag T. Harris. "She looks more like a commoner now, no longer the media queen." Harris chuckled, pulling out his phone to record a video. His eyes flickered toward Langley as if seeking approval. The other guard, nameless and silent, stood still, his gaze averted, unwilling to intervene. Levitt's golden hair, once her pride, now lay in scattered fragments on the floor, each lock falling like a piece of her dignity. The buzz of the clipper was an insult, and every laugh from Langley felt like a strike to her self-respect. Langley stood close, watching every lock fall, his mocking smile never leaving his face. "You called my rulings biased on TV," he said, his voice low but dripping with satisfaction. "Now, who has the power, Miss Levitt? Who's the winner?" Levitt remained silent, denying him the satisfaction of seeing her break. Her gaze was sharp, like a blade, a silent promise that one day he would beg for mercy. In her mind, she compiled a list: Langley's mocking words, Harris's video, the cowardice of the other guard, and this room. All of these would become weapons, tools to destroy him. When the clipper finally stopped, Langley stepped back, admiring his work with sick satisfaction. "Done," he said, tossing the clipper onto the steel table with a metallic clang that pierced the air. "Now you can testify, if you still have the courage." Leavitt stood slowly, like a warrior after battle. She refused to look at the pile of her hair, refusing to let Langley see her hurt. Turning to him, her eyes blazed with an unquenchable fire. "Thank you for making it clear who my enemy is," she said, her voice low but sharp, like a sentence he would regret. "You'll regret this day, Judge Langley." Langley frowned, a flicker of unease flashing in his eyes, but he quickly masked it with a contemptuous smile. "Go," he said, pointing toward the door. "The trial's waiting." Leavitt picked up her briefcase and walked out of the room, her head bare, yet her posture unbowed. She felt the sting of her scalp under the harsh hallway lights, but the pain only fueled the fire within her. Langley didn't realize it yet, but he had just ignited a storm. Leavitt had memorized everything: the mocking smile, the arrogant words, the video being recorded. She would use it all to destroy him, legally and ruthlessly. She pushed open the steel door of the security screening room, the hinges screeching like a final taunt. The hallway of the Philadelphia Federal Courthouse stretched before her, light spilling from high windows onto the marble floor, exposing her bare head, the cruel mark left by Judge Edward Langley. The crowd outside, reporters, activists, MAGA supporters, fell silent, their eyes locking onto her like spotlights. A few whispers arose, phones raised to snap photos, but Leavitt didn't lower her head. She walked forward, her back straight, her briefcase gripped tightly as if she had just left a victorious press briefing. But inside her chest, rage burned, aimed directly at Langley, the man who had personally shaved her head, mocked her, and recorded a video to humiliate her before the nation. He had chosen the wrong adversary. She entered the witness waiting room, a small space with velvet chairs and an old wooden table. The door closed behind her, shutting out the curious stares. For the first time since the humiliation, Leavitt was alone. She sat down and looked at her reflection in the mirror. Her hand trembled slightly as she faced herself, her bare head, uneven patches left by Langley's rough clipper. It felt foreign, as though it belonged to someone else. Her golden hair, once a symbol of her confidence on Fox News, was now just a pile of debris on the screening room floor. She touched her scalp, feeling the emptiness, the sharp pain that pierced her chest, not from the loss of her hair, but from Langley's sick arrogance. The words he had sneered at her echoed in her mind. "You'll have no voice left after today." The words stabbed at her pride, and her rage flared, hot and sharp. "Langley thinks he can break me," she whispered, her voice trembling with fury. "He's wrong. I'll destroy him with the very law he defiles." Leavitt took a deep breath, forcing calm. This was no time for weakness. She was the White House press secretary who had faced down CNN, MSNBC, and angry crowds. Langley, with his over 500 cases in 15 years, claimed to be the face of justice. But today, he had exposed himself as an abuser of power, a symbol of a corrupt system. Leavitt would turn his actions into a weapon, not just for personal revenge, but to topple his throne of power. Leavitt pulled out her phone and called Donald Trump directly. It rang once before his familiar voice boomed through the speaker, forceful and outraged. "Caroline, what the hell's going on?" She recounted the events briefly, her voice sharp and focused, targeting Langley. "Judge Edward Langley personally shaved my head in a sealed room at the courthouse, sir. He stood there mocking me, recording a video, calling me Trump's girl. Who needed humility? He wanted to humiliate me." "Humiliate you?" Trump roared through the phone. "Humiliate you? Humiliate the America First movement? Langley, that liberal hack, he's an enemy of justice. Don't worry, Caroline. Elena Haba will be in touch. Destroy him." Trump's words poured fuel on the fire within her. "I will, sir," she replied, her eyes blazing with determination. Langley would lose everything: his judgeship, his reputation, and his career. Levitt contacted Alina Habba, Trump's renowned conservative lawyer, via encrypted message. "I need security footage from Langley's screening room today and prepare a civil lawsuit against him." "No mercy," Habba replied instantly. "Got it. I'll send a team for the footage. Send me every detail you have." Levitt nodded to herself, imagining Langley's smug face crumbling when the video surfaced. Him wielding the clipper, mocking her, standing close to relish in her humiliation. She opened the X app, her fingers gliding over the screen as she drafted a post, but not yet sending it. She needed words sharp enough to make Langley a national target, exposing him as an abuser of power before millions of Americans. She turned back to the mirror, staring at her bare head. It wasn't a sign of defeat, but a trophy of a coming battle. A faint, dangerous smile crept onto her lips. "Thank you, Langley," she whispered. "Thank you for giving me a reason to destroy you." She picked up her briefcase, opened the door, and stepped into the hallway. The crowd was still there, some reporters thrusting microphones toward her, but she glided past them, not stopping. A Newsmax reporter familiar from past interviews ran up. "Miss Levitt, what happened? Who did this?" She paused, turning her gaze like a blade. "Judge Edward Langley," she said, her voice low but commanding. "He thought he could humiliate me. Tonight on Fox News, the nation will know the truth." She stepped into the elevator, heading to the courtroom to testify. Each step was a vow. Langley, who had personally shaved her head, would pay with his career, reputation, and freedom. In her mind, she mapped out the plan. The security footage would be the first strike, the expose, the spark, and Habba, the legal sword. Leavitt didn't just want justice. She wanted to destroy Langley, a symbol of corrupted power, and make him a lesson for anyone who dared cross her. Just hours after the humiliation, Levitt's rage had become a sharpened weapon. Her fingers danced over the keyboard, crafting an expose, each word a dagger aimed directly at Langley. "Today, Judge Edward Langley, a symbol of corrupted power, personally shaved my head at the Philadelphia Federal Courthouse, mocking me and recording a video to humiliate me and the America First movement. He was wrong. I will make him pay. Justice for Caroline." Hit send. Like a spark to gunpowder, the post spread at lightning speed. Within 30 minutes, it had over 50,000 shares, thousands of furious comments, and the Justice for Caroline dominated X, overshadowing all other news. Leavitt knew the power of her role as White House press secretary lay in shaping the narrative, and she wouldn't let Langley, who had stood there sneering that she was Trump's girl, steal her voice. She called Jake Hammond, the Newsmax reporter who had interviewed her before. Her voice was resolute. "Jake, I need to be on Fox News tonight. I'll expose Langley to the nation. Make sure the cameras are ready." Hammond agreed instantly, sensing a media bombshell. Levitt stood looking out the window at Pennsylvania Avenue, the city lights flickering. This wasn't just a personal fight with Langley, a symbol of a corrupt judicial system who had presided over 500 cases with 80% liberal rulings. It was a battle for Trump and millions of MAGA supporters. That evening, Levitt stepped into the Fox News studio in Washington, D.C., her bare head gleaming under the studio lights, wordless but powerful, a declaration of war against Langley. Cameras focused on her, and viewers across America, from bars in Texas to living rooms in Florida, were glued to their screens. Host Laura Ingraham introduced her with a voice full of outrage. "Caroline Levitt, White House press secretary, humiliated by Judge Edward Langley inside a federal courthouse. She's here to tell the truth." Leavitt sat upright, her gaze sharp and unwavering. "Today I walked into the Philadelphia federal courthouse to testify for the Trump administration," she began, her voice low but powerful. "Judge Edward Langley personally took a clipper, shaved my head, mocked me, and ordered a video recorded. He called me Trump's girl and said I would have no voice left. He wanted to break me because I represent President Trump. But I'm here to tell him, Langley, you picked the wrong person. She recounted the details, the clipper's buzz, golden locks falling like stolen fragments of light. Langley's sick. Smile as he stood close. This wasn't just a personal attack, she said, staring into the camera. Langley is a symbol of corrupted power, a judge using his bench for political revenge. I call on patriotic Americans to stand up, share this story, and demand Langley's removal. The studio audience applauded, and on X, the hashtag Justice for Caroline climbed to #1, with over 2 million mentions in 24 hours. Major conservative accounts like Dan Bongino and Charlie Kirk shared Levitt's post, calling her a MAGA warrior, and Langley an abuser of power. But Langley didn't stay silent. From his office in Philadelphia, he held a brief press conference on CNN, his voice arrogant and patronizing. Miss Levitt is exaggerating, a necessary security check. My court documented 3 audio leaks last year. I have a duty to protect justice, not let media stars like her undermine it. He smirked, implying that Levitt was a political opportunist. CNN and MSNBC amplified it, citing anonymous court sources accusing Levitt of playing the victim to boost her image. Levitt, watching from the green room after her interview, gripped her phone, her rage flaring. Langley dares call me a liar, she whispered, her eyes blazing. Caroline Levitt opened the X app, drafting a new post. Judge Langley calls me an exaggerator on CNN, defending shaving my head to protect justice. This is his justice. Stop Langley abuse. The post went viral within hours, with over 100,000 shares in just 2 hours, further enraging MAGA supporters, who now branded Langley a judicial tyrant. Meanwhile, Alina Habba texted her. My team contacted a disgruntled court staffer. The security video of Langley shaving your head will be ours in 24 hours. Prepare for a civil lawsuit. Caroline gave a faint smile, picturing Langley's smug face collapsing when the video surfaced. She called Elise Stefanik, her voice resolute. Elise, I need senators to pressure the Justice Department. Langley didn't just humiliate me, he's a threat to justice. Stefanik agreed. I'll meet with Cruz and Hawley. We'll make sure Langley loses his seat. To take down Langley, a symbol of corrupted power who had presided over 500 cases with 80% liberal rulings, she needed hard evidence that would be undeniable in court. Her phone buzzed. A message from Alina Habba read, Court staffer agreed. To meet at 10 a.m., cafe near the courthouse. He has the security video of Langley shaving your head. Levitt nodded, her eyes blazing. This was the chance to turn Langley's mocking smile into a fatal blow. The next morning, Levitt arrived at a small cafe near the Philadelphia federal courthouse. She wore a black coat and cap to hide her bare head from curious eyes. In the corner sat Michael Torres, a court technician. He slid a USB across the table, his hand trembling slightly. Security footage from the screening room, he whispered. Langley shaving your head, standing close, mocking you and ordering the video recorded. I copied it before he could delete it. Levitt tightened her fingers around the USB, imagining Langley's arrogant face crumbling when the video surfaced. Anything else? She asked. Torres took a deep breath, glancing around the cafe. Langley didn't just target you. He covered up 7 complaints against security staff in the last 3 years. Harassment, witness intimidation, all to protect his power. I have internal emails. Langley ordering quiet resolutions to keep his judgeship. Levitt gave a faint smile, her eyes flashing. Good work, Michael. Send me everything. Langley won't escape. Torres sent an email with attached files revealing Langley had dismissed a 2023 complaint from a witness intimidated for supporting Trump. Levitt forwarded it to Alina Habba with a message. We have Langley's video and emails. Prepare a civil lawsuit and demand a federal investigation. He must lose his seat. Habba replied instantly. Perfect. I'll file a lawsuit against Langley tomorrow. The Justice Department won't ignore this. Levitt tucked the USB into her pocket, feeling the first taste of victory. The security video with Langley wielding the clipper, mocking her, would be the bullet piercing his defenses, and the emails would be the bomb destroying his career. Back in D.C., Levitt met Elise Stefanik at a discreet Georgetown restaurant. Stefanik, with her sharp demeanor, listened to the plan. "Langley is a symbol of judicial corruption," Levitt said, her voice resolute. "He shaved my head to humiliate me, but the video and emails prove he's been covering up abuses for years. I need senators to pressure the Justice Department for investigation." Stefanik nodded. "I'll talk to Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley. They've despised Langley since his anti-Trump ruling in 2023. We'll demand a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing." Levitt clinked her water glass, feeling the alliance against Langley growing stronger. But internal pressure emerged at the White House. Mark Reynolds, a Trump strategist, pulled Levitt into a meeting room. "Caroline, you're doing great with X and Fox News," he said, his voice uneasy. "But this could distract from the president's tax agenda. Langley's just a judge. Don't let him drag you down." Levitt stared at him, her gaze sharp as a blade. "Mark, Langley isn't just a judge. He's a symbol of a corrupt system. He personally shaved my head to humiliate the MAGA movement. If we let this slide, he'll keep abusing power." "I'm not stopping," Reynolds sighed, silent, knowing Levitt was unyielding. At the courthouse, Caroline Levitt stepped into the courtroom. Her bare head gleamed under the fluorescent lights, a wordless declaration of war against Judge Edward Langley, the man who had personally shaved her head to humiliate her before the nation. Just days after her ex-post garnered over 2 million mentions, and the security video from Michael Torres confirmed Langley's abuse of power, Levitt stood as the key witness in a hearing investigating him, sparked by Alina Habba's civil lawsuit and pressure from Republican senators. The courtroom was packed. Reporters from Fox News, Newsmax, and CNN jostled. MAGA supporters with "Jow, Justice for Caroline" sings sat beside liberal activists. The atmosphere was like a powder keg. Levitt wore a sharp black blazer, her presence cutting like a knife. She locked eyes with Langley, who sat in the defendant's row. His judge's robe was gone, his face tense, but still clinging to arrogance, as if his corrupted power remained untouchable. Presiding Judge Margaret Cole, a neutral figure with 20 years of experience and a reputation for fairness, banged the gavel to open the session. Levitt took the witness stand, swearing to tell the truth. Her eyes focused as if running a White House press briefing. Habba stood, her voice steely. "Miss Levitt, tell the court what Judge Langley did to you." Levitt took a deep breath. Her voice was low but resonant, aimed directly at Langley. Caroline Levitt's determined voice rang out across the press room, her sharp words aimed directly at the heart of the corrupt judicial system. She stood there, her bare head a symbol of the humiliation she had endured at the hands of Judge Edward Langley. As cameras flashed and reporters scrambled to capture every moment, Levitt didn't flinch. Her gaze was unwavering, focused on the target that had once wielded power over her, but now she was the one in control. "Langley thought he could break me, humiliate me for my loyalty to President Trump and the America First movement," she began, her tone measured but resolute. "But he underestimated me, and now, with the truth in hand, it's time for him to face the consequences." Levitt held up a thick stack of documents, the emails and security footage that had turned the tide in her favor. "This," she continued, "is the evidence of Langley's abuse of power, not just against me but against countless others. 7 complaints were covered up, incidents of harassment, intimidation, and retaliation, each one a dark mark on his tenure as a judge." The reporters in the room were silent, their pens hovering over their notepads, waiting for the next revelation. Levitt's words came quickly, each one more damning than the last. "He didn't just target me, he built a system of silence, of intimidation. I'm not the only one. The people Langley tried to crush, they're speaking out now, and they're going to make sure he pays for what he's done." Levitt's eyes locked onto the cameras as she dropped the bombshell. "I call on all of Langley's victims to speak out on X, using the hashtag #StopLangleyAbuse. We will bring him down. This ends now." In the hours that followed, social, Media exploded with posts, stories of people who had been wronged, all coming together to expose the truth about Langley's corrupt reign. The floodgates had opened, and the once untouchable judge was now a man under siege, his arrogance and power quickly crumbling in the face of a public outcry. Outside the courthouse, MAGA supporters cheered, their signs waving as they chanted her name. "Miss Levitt, you're our hope," one called out as she walked past. She offered a faint smile, the first true sign of victory in a long and grueling battle. But she knew the war was far from over. Back in Washington, her phone buzzed with messages. Elise Stefanik texted her with news that the pressure on the Justice Department was mounting. "Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley are pushing for an investigation," she said. "Stay strong, Caroline, this is far from over." Alina Habba's voice echoed in the background as she approached Levitt. "The video and emails are solid, but we need more. We need a direct witness to make the case undeniable. We've got to protect Torres." Levitt nodded, her resolve hardening. "I'll make sure Langley faces the people he's oppressed. He won't escape this time." The battle was only beginning, but for the first time, Levitt felt the weight of justice shifting in her favor. And as she stood at the podium in the White House press room, ready to take down Langley once and for all, she knew the wheels of power were turning, and there was no turning back. The battle had escalated, and Caroline Levitt knew that every step she took brought her closer to exposing the corruption of Judge Edward Langley. Her bare head, a symbol of the humiliation Langley had inflicted upon her, was now a powerful emblem of defiance, drawing national attention to the abuse that had long been hidden behind the doors of the court. The Stop Langley Abuse hashtag had gone viral, racking up millions of views as Levitt's campaign gained momentum. Her alliance with conservative influencers like Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens pushed the movement even further into the spotlight. In a live stream on X, Kirk called Levitt out as a warrior against judicial tyranny. As Levitt, glowing, under the studio lights, recounted the humiliation she had suffered at Langley's hands. "Langley thinks he's above the law, but I've got the evidence to expose him," she stated, her voice unwavering. Candace Owens added her voice, urging viewers to send in more evidence of Langley's abuses. "This isn't just about Caroline anymore," she said. "This is about all of us standing up against a corrupt system." The live stream reached 5 million views, amplified by the support of figures like Dan Bongino and Ben Shapiro, who condemned Langley as an enemy of justice. But Langley was not backing down. From his office in Philadelphia, he appeared on MSNBC smirking as he dismissed Levitt's accusations. "She's an agitator exploiting her White House role to smear me," Langley said, his voice dripping with arrogance. "This is a security check, not abuse. She's just playing victim for fame." His words, though, only made things worse for him. As Levitt watched from her office, fury bubbled inside her. She knew she had to strike back. Opening X, she typed out a response, her fingers quick, precise. "Langley calls me an agitator on MSNBC, defending shaving my head as a security measure. This is his security?" She posted, attaching a screenshot of an email from Langley himself, where he had quietly resolved abuse complaints against his staff. The post exploded, gaining 200,000 shares in just 3 hours, with MAGA supporters flooding the comments, branding Langley a black-robed tyrant. Alina Habba, Levitt's trusted ally, sent a text. "We have a new witness, a former security staffer who's ready to testify about Langley forcing silence after a 2023 intimidation case. I'll bring her to the next hearing." The next blow was coming. Levitt's mind raced, picturing Langley trembling in the face of this new witness. This was it. He couldn't escape this time. Elise Stefanik had more good news. Cruz and Hawley were meeting with the Justice Department, demanding a full criminal investigation into Langley's actions. The tide was turning, and the anti-Langley alliance was growing stronger by the day. But as the pressure mounted, so did the personal cost. Levitt's phone buzzed constantly, a mixture of support and venomous comments from liberal accounts who derided her as a bald troublemaker or a lackey for Trump. Each insult stung, but she ignored them. focusing instead on the new evidence that was coming her way. An anonymous audio file surfaced. Langley had instructed his staff to erase any trace of the shaving incident. Levitt forwarded it to Alina immediately, whispering to herself, "This is the kill shot." Later, in her apartment in Washington, Levitt sat alone, her bare head a reminder of the cruelty she had endured. The fight was taking its toll. Her phone buzzed with more messages, the weight of the battle pressing down on her. Nicholas Reichio, her husband, had sent a text. "You're shaking the nation, Caroline. Nico and I are proud of you, but I'm worried you're burning out. Call me." Leavitt looked at a photo of her son, Nico, beaming with joy, and the pain of missing those moments with him hit her hard. She video-called Nicholas, her smile forced as she tried to hide her exhaustion. "I'm fine, Nick," she said, her voice tired but determined. "Langley's still fighting back, calling me an agitator. I can't stop now. Not for him. Not for me. For Nico. For Trump. I have to finish this." Nicholas's voice softened, his concern evident. "Destroy him, Caroline, but don't forget, Nico needs his mom. Come home when you can." The call ended and Levitt stood in front of the mirror staring at her reflection. Langley's mark, the scar of his mockery, was etched into her. "He thought he could break me," she whispered to herself. "But I'm not just fighting for revenge. I'm fighting to make sure no one else has to suffer the way I did." That afternoon, she stood in the Oval Office with President Donald Trump. The warm golden light filled the room, but the air was thick with tension. Trump hugged her, his voice filled with outrage. "Caroline, you're my #1 warrior," he said, his eyes blazing. "Langley's liberal trash dared to shave your head to humiliate you. We'll destroy him." Leavitt smiled, warmed by Trump's unwavering trust. She outlined the plan, the new witness, the audio, the emails, everything that would bring Langley down. Trump placed a hand on her shoulder, his voice serious. "You're making America proud, but don't let Langley drag you down. You're my star. Release that audio, make him tremble." Trump's words fueled her determination. "Thank you, sir," she said. "Langley will lose everything." Back at her office, Levitt received another email from Alina Habba, the Wheels of Justice.
Alright, yeah. Pick yourself. See if I... I think no, not one else. Cool.
The battle to expose Judge Edward Langley's abuse had reached its final stage, and the weight of the moment was heavy. Her phone buzzed with the latest post from Charlie Kirk declaring, "Caroline Levitt is toppling judicial tyrant Langley, Lanner stop Langley abuse." Leavitt shared it with a simple message. "Thanks, Charlie. Langley will face justice at the second hearing." The campaign had gone beyond viral, with over 5 million mentions of the hashtag and the pressure mounting from Republican senators, civil lawsuits, and a nationwide media storm. Langley, once untouchable, now sat in the defendant's row, stripped of his judicial robe, his smug demeanor reduced to a fragile shell. He trembled under the weight of his own arrogance as Levitt locked eyes with him. The courtroom was packed. Over 100 reporters jostled for position, and a mix of MAGA supporters and liberal activists filled the room, creating an air of finality. Levitt stood tall, her silver-gray blazer sharp as a blade, prepared for the moment that could bring Langley's reign of corruption to an end. Judge Margaret Cole, known for her fairness, banged the gavel to start the hearing. Levitt swore, to tell the truth as she took the witness stand, her gaze steady and determined, like she was addressing the White House press corps. Alina Habba, her trusted attorney, stood ready with a piercing focus. "Miss Levitt, please recount Judge Langley's actions," Habba asked, her voice unwavering. Levitt stared directly at Langley, her voice low but powerful. "I came to the Philadelphia Federal Courthouse to testify for the Trump administration. Judge Edward Langley personally led me to a sealed room, took a clipper, shaved my head, mocked me, and ordered a video recording. He said I would have no voice left because I was Trump's girl. He wanted to humiliate me, humiliate President Trump, and the America First movement. Her words hit the courtroom like a thunderclap. The audience was silent, absorbing the magnitude of the revelation. Levitt paused, letting her words sink in, her eyes searing Langley's arrogant face. Haba played the security video, showing Langley wielding the clippers as Levitt's golden hair fell away. The sick smile on Langley's face, the sound of the clippers, made the audience recoil. The evidence was undeniable. Then came the final blow. Haba presented an anonymous audio file, Langley's cold, panicked voice ordering his staff to erase all traces of the shaving incident, to destroy the video and emails. His voice rang out like a confession, sending the courtroom into a frenzy. MAGA supporters cheered, and Haba continued, presenting emails from Michael Torres revealing Langley's cover-up of 7 abuse complaints over 3 years. Langley's grip on power was slipping, but the decisive strike came from Sarah Mitchell, a former court security staffer. She took the stand, her short hair and resolute gaze a reflection of her courage. In 2023, I reported a security staffer intimidating a witness. Langley ordered me to stay silent. When I objected, I was fired within 48 hours, Mitchell testified, sending shockwaves through the room. Levitt, still on the witness stand, nodded in silent support. The courtroom fell silent as Haba delivered the final blow. Internal documents showing that Langley had received $200,000 in secret funding from an anti-Trump liberal group in 2022. This money, Haba declared, had been used to protect Langley's power. Langley didn't just target Miss Levitt, Haba said, her voice cutting through the tension. He sold justice. He turned his court into a tool for political revenge. Langley's defense attorney, David Feldman, tried to salvage the situation. He argued that Levitt was a media expert, manipulating the public with her campaign and distorting the truth about Langley's actions. Langley was just protecting court security, Feldman claimed, pointing to the documented leaks in 2023. But Levitt, her resolve unshaken, shot back sharply. I have video of Langley personally shaving my head, audio of him ordering evidence destroyed, emails of him covering up abuse and documents of secret funding. He's not protecting justice. He's protecting his corrupted power. Her words sparked applause from the audience, and Judge Cole had to bang the gavel repeatedly to restore order. Langley, his head bowed, looked like a man defeated. When the hearing concluded, Judge Cole announced, "The court will issue a ruling in 3 days, but today's evidence is deeply troubling." Levitt left the witness stand, her victory already spreading beyond the courtroom. Fox News reporters swarmed her as she walked, her bare head gleaming under the lights. "Miss Levitt, what do you think of Langley?" they asked. She paused, her voice resolute. "Langley shaved my head to humiliate me before America. Today, I use the law to ensure he loses everything." Her words rippled across social media, garnering 400,000 shares in just hours. Outside the courthouse, Alina Haba hugged Levitt, whispering, "We crushed Langley. Cole will remove him." Elise Stefanik texted to confirm, "The Justice Department has opened a criminal investigation into Langley." Despite the victory, Levitt knew the battle wasn't over. Langley could appeal, and CNN was already running pieces smearing her as an agitator. She had to solidify her win. As she left the courthouse, a young girl in a MAGA hat grabbed her hand and said, "Miss Levitt, you're our hope." Levitt smiled, feeling the weight of the fight settle into her bones, but a fierce determination remained. She had toppled Langley, but the fight for justice was far from over. Caroline Levitt smiled, feeling the relief wash over her. "Thank you," she replied, her voice steady. "We fight together." From a victim with a bare head, she had transformed into a warrior, using the law to destroy Judge Langley, turning his attempt to humiliate her into a banner of victory. 3 days after the decisive hearing, Judge Margaret Cole declared Langley stripped of his judgeship for abuse of power, facing civil lawsuits and a criminal investigation from the Justice Department. Thanks to the video, audio, and witness evidence provided by Levitt and Alina Haba, thousands of MAGA supporters gathered, waving Jean Justice for Caroline signs. The atmosphere was electric, with over 200 reporters from Fox News, Newsmax, and CNN capturing the historic moment. President Donald Trump stood beside her, his eyes gleaming, ready to announce a new initiative. Levitt gripped the microphone, her gaze sharp, aimed squarely at Langley's tarnished legacy. "Americans have won justice," Levitt began, her voice resonating with the clarity of a White House press briefing. "Judge Edward Langley personally shaved my head, mocked me, and recorded a video to humiliate me for my loyalty to Trump. He covered up 7 abuse complaints and took $200,000 in secret funding from an anti-Trump group to protect his corrupted power. Today he's lost his seat, his reputation, and his freedom." The crowd erupted in thunderous applause. Trump patted Levitt's shoulder, laughing. "Caroline is a great warrior. Langley's liberal trash, and we crushed him," he announced, drawing cheers from the audience. "The America First Justice initiative will ensure no more Langleys." The hashtag America First Justice began trending on X, quickly racking up 3 million mentions within 24 hours. The initiative, crafted with Elise Stefanik and Alina Habba, mandated anti-abuse training for 10,000 federal court staff, judge background checks, and independent oversight to prevent incidents like Levitt's. Senators Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley pledged to bring it to the Senate Judiciary Committee within 30 days. Levitt held up a copy of the proposal, sunlight glinting off the paper. "Langley thought he could break me," she declared, her voice cutting through the air. "But this bare head is proof we will reform justice to protect patriotic Americans." The crowd roared again, and her speech went viral, hitting 7 million views on X that evening. Later that night, Levitt appeared on Newsmax with Greg Kelly. Her bare head gleamed under the studio lights, not as a mark of shame, but as a badge of victory. "Caroline, you took down Langley, a judicial tyrant," Kelly said, his voice admiring. Levitt nodded, her gaze resolute. "Langley personally shaved my head to humiliate the MAGA movement," Levitt said, her tone unwavering. "He thought he was untouchable, but the video, the audio, and the witnesses exposed him. Americans want justice, and our initiative will ensure it." She urged viewers to continue sharing abuse stories on X, turning her personal victory into a national movement. The clip hit 4 million views and was shared by Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens, who called Langley a symbol of corruption. Langley's downfall was swift. Stripped of his judgeship, he faced civil lawsuits from Levitt and 3 other victims, demanding $5 million in damages, pushing him toward bankruptcy. A criminal investigation, sparked by pressure from Cruz and Hawley, targeted his secret funding and the cover-ups of complaints. Public opinion turned against him, with a Rasmussen poll showing 70% of Americans calling him corrupt. Langley dodged the media, but the iconic image of him wielding the clipper while mocking Levitt became a symbol of abuse. The liberal media fought back. CNN labeled Levitt's initiative a MAGA stunt, and MSNBC accused her of manipulating the public with her X campaign, which had garnered 5 million mentions. A White House advisor, Mark Reynolds, voiced concern. "Caroline, this could overshadow the president's tax agenda," he warned. Levitt stared at him down, her voice firm. "Mark, Langley shaved my head to humiliate our movement. Ignoring him lets the liberal media win. I'm not stopping." Reynolds fell silent, knowing Levitt was unyielding. Later, as she stepped into her Washington, D.C. apartment, the soft glow of the dim living room lights illuminated her bare head, where sparse hairs were beginning to grow back, a sign of rebirth after her resounding victory. Langley, once the symbol of corrupted power, had tried to break her by shaving her head and humiliating her before the nation. But now he had lost his judgeship, faced civil lawsuits demanding $5 million, and was under criminal investigation by the Justice Department. Levitt's America First Justice initiative, implemented in 10 states and training 10,000 court staff against abuse, had become a legacy. The hashtag Hawker America First Justice continued to soar, hitting 3 million mentions on X. But as the crowds outside faded and the cameras stopped rolling, Levitt faced herself. Not just the White House press secretary, but a wife, mother, and woman who had overcome a brutal ordeal. She stepped into the bathroom, facing her reflection. The bare head, once a mark of Langley's humiliation, was now a badge of victory. Yet, as she touched her scalp, feeling the new hairs beginning to grow, a faint smile crossed her face. "Langley thought he could break me," she whispered. "He made me stronger." Caroline Levitt opened her inbox to a heartfelt email from Emily Harper, a law student. "Miss Levitt, I watched the trial on TV and read about your work. You've inspired me, a small-town girl, to believe I can fight against abuses like Langley's. Thank you." Caroline's eyes softened as she read the message. She quickly replied, "Emily, thank you. Keep fighting. Justice begins with people like you." Caroline shared the email on X with the caption, "For people like Emily, I took down Langley. America First Justice." The post went viral, gaining 150,000 shares. This not only strengthened her image as a fierce advocate, but also as a source of inspiration. Later, while at her dining table, she watched her Newsmax interview again, where her message for judicial reform resounded clearly, calling for an end to future abuses like Langley's. She paused the video, staring at her reflection on the screen, the face of someone who had turned humiliation into strength. The battle with Langley, who had 500 cases and an 80% liberal ruling rate, wasn't just a legal challenge. It had forced Caroline to confront her fears, turning them into fuel for her fight. This battle, she realized, wasn't just for Trump or MAGA. It was for a future where her son, Nico, could grow up in a nation free from corruption. She picked up her notebook and wrote, "Justice isn't revenge, it's about protecting people like Emily and Nico." As she reflected on the support from figures like Alina Habba and Elise Stefanik, as well as the millions on X who helped her, she recognized that their efforts didn't just secure victory, they helped her evolve from a sharp spokesperson to a compassionate leader. A year had passed since Langley, the man who shaved her head in a bid to humiliate her, had become a symbol of corruption. Through the power of the law and media, Caroline had turned that humiliation into a weapon. Langley, once untouchable, lost his judgeship, faced $5 million in civil lawsuits, and came under a Justice Department investigation. A poll revealed that 70% of Americans viewed him as corrupt. Caroline's America First Justice initiative, now active in 15 states with 12,000 court staff trained to prevent abuse, was a lasting legacy. At a press conference, President Donald Trump introduced Caroline as the new senior advisor for judicial reform. Caroline Levitt is the greatest warrior of America First. She took down Edward Langley, the liberal tyrant who tried to break our movement, he declared to thunderous applause. Caroline took the stage, her navy blazer sharp, her gaze unwavering. "Langley thought he could break me," she began, her voice powerful. "He shaved my head, mocked me, and tried to silence. But with the help of President Trump, Alina Habba, Elise Stefanik, and millions of Americans, we brought him down. The America First Justice Initiative ensures no one will abuse power to humiliate patriots again." Her speech reached a new high when she held up a copy of the initiative, highlighting that in the past year, it had trained 12,000 court staff and reduced abuse complaints by 30%. The crowd erupted, and the hashtag America First Justice soared to 4 million mentions. Her image was broadcast to millions, with figures like Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens praising her transformation from victim to leader. As Caroline left the venue, a young woman, Emily Harper, approached her, eyes shining. "Miss Levitt, because of you, I joined a conservative legal group," she said. Caroline embraced her warmly. "You'll carry this torch," she replied. The moment was captured by Fox News and quickly went viral with 200,000 shares. Later that evening, Caroline posted a final message on X. "Langley shaved my head to humiliate me. Today, I stand as senior advisor for the America First Justice Initiative, ensuring justice for all." The post quickly gained 5 million views, with figures like Dan Bongino and Ben Shapiro calling her a game changer. As she read Emily's email once more, Caroline thought of the young woman who was carrying on the fight. She texted Alina Haba. "Sis, ready for the next battle?" Haba replied, "Always ready." Langley had lost, but Caroline knew the true victory was the future she was building, one where justice could flourish. As senior advisor, she would continue the fight for Trump, for justice, and for a better America. Caroline Leavitt's journey, from the humiliation of having her head shaved by Judge Langley to becoming a symbol of resistance and reform, speaks to the power of resilience. She used evidence, strategy, and the platform of social media to expose Langley's corruption, turning personal suffering into a call for systemic change. With the support of allies like Haba, Stefanik, and countless Americans, she built a lasting legacy. Her story teaches us that in America's polarized society, confronting injustice requires persistence, the use of platforms like X to shape narratives, and the power of community. Never forget that family and allies fuel the strength needed to fight for justice, not just for yourself, but for a fairer America. Join the fight for justice, as Caroline Leavitt did. Thank you for supporting the America First movement. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay updated with more inspiring stories.